I feel like the biggest reservation people have about Studio North is how scary it looks, because it seems so high quality. It seems so professional. It seems so
intimidating.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think we should just try to break that. It's kind of what we want to also do with this podcast, is break down that wall, or break down those assumptions and show people that we're just a couple goofballs. What is up, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Studio North podcast. Pew, 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 pew. Welcome. We are your co-hosts, Scott and Carmen Forsyth. We are the founders and owners of Studio North, and we are excited to start this.
Yes, this is something that we've been wanting to do for a while, so thank you so much for tuning in to our first episode. The reason we wanted to start this podcast was to take a deeper look into Studio North. We'll be interviewing some faculty, special guests in our community, and just giving everyone a behind-the-scenes look at what we do day to day, our hearts behind Studio North, and for you just to get to know us more. So since it's our first podcast, we're assuming that you're here because you kind of know a little bit about Studio North, but if you don't know about us, Scott, why don't you give us a little intro?
Yeah, I feel like we should probably introduce ourselves. So my name is Scott, and
hi, Scott.
Thank you. So I started Irish dancing when I was like 10. So that's kind of how I got my start into the dance world, you could say. But really, it was when I was, I think, about 13 years old. That's when I got introduced to b-boying through an ad on a newspaper. And then from there, just started diving a little bit more into other styles. So we did, obviously, it was a lot of b-boying, a lot of top rocking, and then there was locking and popping, a little bit of foundation styles. Yeah. And then it was, I think, in high school when I started getting involved in high school dance competitions. And then that was when the choreography realm I got introduced to. And I think that's where I kind of fell in love with it. I fell in love with the community. I fell in love with schools coming together like a couple times a year and competing against each other, but then networking afterwards.
Networking.
It's definitely not networking. Just
supporting
like
each other.
Totally. Yeah. Got to bring myself back to 16-year-old Scott, not 30-year-old Scott. And then, yeah, I think that's where the love of choreography kind of took over. And then from there, started joining crews, some dance teams locally here in Vancouver, and then started my own group by the name of Brotherhood, and then competed with Brotherhood, and then was going to school, and then at the same time was kind of just doing dance on the side and throwing up concept videos on YouTube. Those were the days. And then opportunities just kind of started opening up to teach internationally. So just started walking through those doors that opened and got to teach in a lot of really cool places and got to compete with Brotherhood at a lot of cool competitions. And then we opened a studio, I guess. But before we go into that, I think that's my X-Men origin story of how I got into dancing.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, before me, I feel like you're just kind of selling yourself short a little bit. These are some of the biggest dance competitions, dance events that you've been able to be a part of, and you've been a big pioneer for so many people in Vancouver as an international choreographer, teacher, dancer. So basically my husband's a very big deal, but he won't say it, but I will say it. So
how about you? Oh.
Okay, so I started dancing when I was about 5 years old. I was put into ballet. Wasn't very good at it, but I love performing. I always used to make my mom and dad watch me do shows in our living room to Shania Twain and Faith Hill. Not hip hop, but that's what it was. And then I stuck it out for a really long time because I loved it, but I wasn't very good, which is how it should be with dance. Yeah. You have to be passionate about it for sure. And then when I was 11 or 12, I think, I started hip hop, and I was like, wow, this is way more fun. I'm actually kind of good, I think. I had the Filipino gene in me, so I'm like, I don't know why I didn't start it sooner. And then I stuck with it. I was like, my end game till now, Endgame. I've never said that.
Come on, Avengers, let's go.
Maybe it's because you said X-Men.
It's okay. It's the wrong universe. Keep going. You good?
Keep going. And then same as you. Once I got into high school, joined the high school dance team, and got the opportunity to choreograph and teach at such a young age, which was really cool. Started joining crews, which was newer at the time for us, which was also really cool to be a part of, the beginning of Vancouver's scene where we would get to travel and compete internationally. So we were on a crew. We were on a few teams together, which we'll get into in other episodes. And through Praise Team mainly, I was able to compete and dance on some of the world's biggest stages alongside Scotty. Body Rock, Arena, HHI, which was really awesome. I loved those times. And then I also was able to start my own all-female crew, Style and Grace, and we're still together today. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary last year, and so we, just love dancing together, performing together, and just doing things in the community, which has been really cool to do within Studio North. So I think that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and then I get to pump your tires now because you are, I would say, the OG iconic role model and female leader within Vancouver's dance community. I think so many women look up to you and so many young girls look up to you as a role model and as an example of, I want to be like her one day. So you're selling yourself short on the impact that you're making within our community as well. So, and that's been really cool to see over the past, 15 years that we've known each other. So that's been pretty cool.
Thanks, honey.
There we go. Return the favor. So then that kind of brought us to where we are now with Studio North, which some people might wonder, what is Studio North? And our vision for Studio North, it was basically to provide what we didn't really have in the beginning, which was a home for us as dancers, to be able to go, to be able to meet up with our friends after school, after work, to train, to get better, to do what we love, to build community. And we just wanted to provide that at the absolutely highest level possible. And so we decided in 2019 to open up a studio, which we didn't really think we would until we were like 40, right? We were thinking of actually moving to LA. We were thinking of going down and I had my O1 visa at the time, so I was able to work down there. And so the idea was to go down and live in LA. And we were even looking at properties already of what that would look like. And then we heard a voice that said, no, build and stay. I think that was what was on our hearts. And so that's what we decided to do. So we opened in Vancouver in 2019.
Yeah, it was a cool point in both of our lives and careers where we were kind of looking for like the next phase. Like I was either going to go back to school or we were going to move to LA. And so we were able to fill a need. I think looking back, I think it could have been a cool opportunity for us to go to LA, but now that we're at this stage and providing these opportunities for people to become teachers and choreographers in the community, I think it's cool that we've provided like another pathway. Totally. So that's been really cool to see that we didn't see when we first opened, but now also thinking back, like Brotherhood and Style and Grace, like there are a lot of our faculty members and they're a big part of just what we do. So to think that we were not going to leave them behind or anything, but now we were able to provide those opportunities for them, and they're also passing it to the next generation too. Has been really cool.
So grandparents now, basically. Brotherhood and Style and Grace were our kids, and now they're making their own kids. But I do remember that was the hardest pill I think we had to swallow, was if we were to move to LA, we would what's going to happen with Brotherhood and Style and Grace, and I think that was another reason why we were more open to saying, okay, let's build and stay. Because, I mean, for those who might not know, that's the general plan, or that's like the
trajectory. trajectory?
Yeah, or it's like the blueprint. Yes, the blueprint, which is you get really good at dancing, you get really well known in Vancouver, and then you move to LA, and then you go and then you work as a dancer in LA. That's kind of what the formula was. Formula, that was the word I was really looking for. And then that's kind of what we were going to be doing as well. And there's nothing wrong with that formula. It works. And it's not
really
just
hard.
Yeah. And it's not just Vancouver. It's like I was Vancouver, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Toronto. Over the past, decade or two, that's been the trajectory is you get really good at dancing, you get your name out there, you submit some demo tapes, you get signed to an agency, and then you make the cross, which is really hard to do for Canadians to go down and work in the States, which sucks. It's not hard for Americans to come work up here, but it's anyways, another podcast. And so, yeah, I think it was cool that we decided to kind of break that trajectory a little bit and say, let's, like you said, provide opportunities for people and create a home for dancers that are able to build community. So I feel like whether it was dance, whether it was basket weaving, whatever we were called to do, I feel like this was just meant to be. It was to build something bigger than ourselves that we are passionate about, which was community and bringing people together and doing life with each other. So it's been really cool to see it go from that idea back then to where we are now with another location over in Toronto.
Yeah, we've become really passionate about just building up Canada's talent in general, and just providing them a platform to be seen and known because, we have so many amazing dancers in Canada, and that's also been really cool to see the world just acknowledge, hey, what's happening up there.
Well, because it started when we were competing. We would go to these competitions and people would be like HHI, Vibe, Body Rock. People would look and Canada, what's they just think the stereotype, we're hockey players.
Yes.
We all live in igloos. And then we come out and we're swinging and we're winning these events and these competitions. And so I think that was a catalyst for us to open the space too and say, look at all this unreal talent that is here, and then giving them, like you said, giving them a platform, because back then we didn't really have a platform per se. We had community, I would say, but having a space, having opportunities to share our artwork and our choreography with the world, that it was hard to do. It just wasn't as easily accessible. I know we live in the age of content and class footage, but back then that was kind of just taking off. We never really had that. I still remember my first class at ML, and I remember the pay that I got paid. I hired a videographer to come in and film that class. So I had a record of it and then just market the crap out of that and be like, look at this. This is amazing. And it was amazing. But that was back when that wasn't, that was back when that just wasn't as common. And so to be able to provide that platform in Vancouver and then in Toronto as well, because Toronto's been a community we've looked up to for so long. They've been around a lot longer, I would say, than Vancouver has been as far as our dance communities go. And so to see them just continue to grind and hustle for so long, and then now to be able to, like you said, provide a need at the time. And you're right, that's really, Student North only exists because we can fill a need.
Yeah. So backtracking just a little bit, we opened 2019 in Vancouver, and then 6 months in,
I knew you were going to say that.
We love to talk about it. COVID hit, which was fun times. Again, another podcast. This is just the first episode.
Yeah.
But also in that time, like Scott said, we were able to go into Toronto and fill a need in their community as well. So that was the height of the pandemic, which was crazy. That was in 2020 when we started building. And then 2021, we were able to open. Yeah. And then somewhere in the middle of that, Student North TV.
Yeah, that was right when COVID hit,
happened.
I remember. Yeah,
okay.
So for those who might not know, Student North TV is sponsoring this episode. So head on over to the studentnorth.tv. That's our online dance platform where we upload tutorials for some of our teachers' choreography. If you want to learn that at home from the comfort of your own home, no matter where you are, we are working on that and continuing to build that platform. And that came out of COVID, the lockdowns, but has stayed since because we do believe it's such a valuable resource, and not everybody can live in Vancouver or in Toronto. And so to be able to offer those pieces of choreography that you can learn online for a super reasonable rate. So make sure you head on over to the studionorth.tv sponsoring. First ad ourselves. So yeah, but that was a kick in the pants. The 6 months in opening a space, and it's probably like the worst possible business you could open before a pandemic hits. You know, you're in a room, you're sweating, you're breathing heavy. You need it. You need to be in person very much so, and then a global pandemic hits where it's all shut down, and we had to navigate that. And that, I think, was our first challenge of many. And yeah, even talking, I remember during that time, again, we can save it for another episode, but talking to other business owners who had been around, other studio owners who had been around for 20, 30 years. And they were saying, you guys are 6 months in and you're going through things we've never seen before in 30 years. If you can get through this, you're all right. Like, you'll be good. And so I also don't think we had a choice.
Yes.
Because we literally invested all of our life savings into the space. And so we were like, let's just figure it out. We gotta push through.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're definitely stronger for a lot of the challenges that we've faced. Again, that we'll go through, but COVID was...
That was a big one.
Yes.
That was probably our biggest challenge to date. So currently we've got locations in Vancouver and in Toronto. And for those that don't know, we offer dance classes for all experience levels. So we're talking never danced before in your life, all the way up to professional and semi-professional classes, and styles of all styles. We've got hip hop, we've got choreography, we've got Afro, we've got contemporary, we've got heels, we've got jazz. You name it, we probably have a class for you. And both Vancouver and in Toronto, we swear by our faculty. We love our faculty and we co-sign them hard. So we're really excited and honored to be working with, I'd say, the best talent in Canada, hands down. And we've also got great management teams as well that we would love to get on the podcast eventually too, and get to know some of the people behind Studio North, because sometimes it's a lot of me and you, but we have such amazing team. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, both in Vancouver and in Toronto. And so it'd be cool to talk to them about it too. So if you're in Vancouver, if you're in Toronto, come on by. I know I think the biggest, correct me if I'm wrong here, I feel like the biggest reservation people have about Studio North is how scary it looks, because it seems so high quality. It seems so professional. It seems so
intimidating.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I get that because, like I said, we want to be the absolute best. And everything that we do, we're going to strive for greatness. We're going to invest everything we absolutely can. We're going to work as hard as we absolutely can to provide the best possible experience. But sometimes that can come off as, that's too good for me. I'm not a professional. And I think we should just try to break that. It's kind of what we want to also do with this podcast, is break down that wall, or break down those assumptions and show people that we're just a couple goofballs. Or that, like, what our true heart behind it is, which is we just want to build community. We're really good at what we do, and we're going to continue to be really good at what we're doing, but we're not just advanced classes. We're not just professional dancers. We have classes for people who've never danced before, who just want to meet new people and who want to move, and they might have never taken a dance class before. And we still have something for them as well. And I feel like that's kind of the number one, from talking to, people that know about Studio North. I think that's the number one reservation, is just, oh, you guys are too good. You're too professional. And so we just hope that this shows that we aren't. Or that we are, but we're also a good time, having a good time. And I think another reason we wanted to start the podcast was to get to know our people and get to know our faculty and the leaders that are in our communities, and just get to know their process a little bit more, kind of as a resource that we wish we had when we were coming up and becoming teachers and choreographers. Having people that we could just pick their brain, or at least listen to, what's your choreography process look like? What does what does teaching look like? If I want to become a teacher, how did you become a teacher?
Yeah.
What should I be doing? I feel like we can just based off of talking with a lot of our faculty, we can provide a lot of insight that we wish we had when we were coming up.
Yeah, because we started teaching, like we were saying, in high school, like just our dance teams, which is great practice, but we were also like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
So we were just shooting from the hip.
Totally.
And it took us a really long time to get to where we are. Whereas now, seeing our faculty, especially the ones that are just starting, that was the goal, was to cut their time to get there, like in half or in a couple years. And so that's really been cool to see that it worked.
Because there's no school for this, like especially our genre. I would argue our genre is, like I said, the styles of dance that we have and offer, it's all over the spectrum, and a lot of these styles have been around for so long. But this, hybrid hip hop choreography scene that a majority of our classes are in, this specific community and the specific culture of drop-in dance culture, it hasn't been around for a long time, and so. Like you said, we just learned as we went. We made like so many mistakes as we went along, but we figured it out and we got here. And then to be able to now take what we've learned, talk about it, discuss it, and then throw it to the next generation or even the current generation that didn't have the trial by fire that we might have necessarily had to go through to get where we went. But I think that's another aspect of the podcast that we'll be talking more about. And not going like kind of too much into that, but I think it's worth touching on if anyone is thinking about getting into teaching, into choreographing, into dancing and performing. I think just keeping in mind like your intention or like why are you getting into it? Because looking back, it's just kind of cool and nostalgic to think back when we were in high school competing. Like that was just, we loved it.
Yeah.
That's all we thought about. And we weren't doing it for this. We weren't doing it to be able to travel. We weren't doing it to be able to make a career out of it. I never thought dance would be a career. I just always thought it would be on the side, just for fun. And then it turned into this thing. So I think the first and foremost, if anyone who's listening who is thinking about making dance your career or making it a thing, is just making sure you're doing it for the right reasons and you love it. Because if you don't love it, you're not going to want to go to practice at 2 a.m. or you're not going to want to practice until 3 or 4 a.m. when you know you need to, and you need to put in those hours and work to get where you need to be. And I think that's something that we had from day one, was we just loved it. It was so fresh. It was so YouTube era, no Instagram, no TikTok, not even Facebook. It was just YouTube was that concept videos. And that was the era that we lived in. And it's kind of nostalgic to think back to then and to see, and I would argue, we're not even the first generation of this. There have been generations definitely before us, but I feel like we're the ones that are laying a path, or we're laying a foundation, and we're providing opportunities for the next generation that, I can be honest, the previous generation didn't offer us. They didn't give this. They didn't help us do this. We just figured it out on our own. And so I think to be able to pass that on is really close to our hearts and something that we care about.
Yeah, like just to provide like sustainability or a path, because for us, I remember, my parents did not, or they're like, what do you mean you want to dance? I'm like, I don't know. So I had to figure that out too, or I'm like, I get it. I need to make money and I need to be able to provide for myself. And I just didn't know what that would look like or what it could look like. So it's cool to be able to provide, again, like you were saying, those opportunities to other people now. Be like, I make money off this. Cool. Like, that's really cool.
Able to like support myself, able to support my family. And then I think what's really passionate for me is now that we've been able to do it for ourselves, whether it was, traveling internationally and teaching locally, making a living off of teaching, and then now turning it into a business and a studio, but now enabling others around us to be like, you want to do what you love for a living, like rather than feeling like you have to go to the 9 to 5 and then pursue your passions afterwards. I'm really passionate about saying like, no, we can do this. We can build something together and we can love what we do. Let's find a way to make this make sense and to make sure that we can pay bills and that we can sustain ourselves and sustain our families. And I think that's something cool with Studio North too, is I'm not trying to, both of us, we're not trying to turn it into like some corporation big, you know, but we're like, well, why can't people take dance seriously? Why can't people see Studio North as a company that's legit? And we've got employees and we've got a building one day and we've got all these, like our own building, not a leased out building. But I think that's also really close to our hearts too, is providing those opportunities for the people around us and for the people that have been riding with us from day one, whether that's, you know, Brotherhood, Style and Grace. I feel like that's really close to our hearts, is bringing them along and like allowing them, giving them opportunities and supporting them and just putting the spotlight on them.
Yeah, so like we said, some episodes we'll be hosting ourselves, more Scott and Carmen combos to look forward to. We'll be bringing on some of our faculty, Studio North community members, and just kind of, giving everyone an inside look into what we do.
Special guests.
Yes, special guests, yeah.
Don't even know who those are, but they're going to be special. Yeah, just like long form conversations too, I feel like in a digital age. And I know I know the first thing people are going to say as soon as we drop this is they're like, oh, you're too late. Like everyone and their dog has a podcast. Because it's true. It is a very saturated market. Everyone has a podcast. But I'm okay with that. And I think this was the time that it worked for us. And we're going to make it past episode 6, I believe. And then we're going to make it past episode 3. And then we're going to make it past episode 6 and the 25. Thank you, Dan. So if we can make it past those milestones, we're going to be in the top 10% of all podcasts. So we're excited to do that. And I feel like we've got enough to talk about to hit those.
So, yeah.
Oh, trust we can.
Yes, no, we do. And yeah, if you're someone who's interested in the dance community and want to know more, whether you're new to dancing or looking to get into it, this is maybe also something you'd be interested in. And like Scott said, we're both entrepreneurial. So if you like business, turning passions into careers, like I think we'll be talking about that. Relationships.
Yeah.
Friendships.
Marriage.
Yeah. A lot of different things
Yeah.
outside of dance too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Shout outs to mom and dad. I know they're listening right now. Even you don't have to be a dancer to tune into the Studio North podcast. I know you guys are watching. So even if you're not a dancer, I know there's something fun in here that hopefully, if not, just you don't have to. But
we'll be here.
We'll be here. And if you guys can do us a huge favor, a couple things. One would be, subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, let us know what you're wanting to know. If you throw down, I think there's a area you can below the show notes, hey. There's a place you can like comment, or you're going to have to throw an email in the show notes, and you can just send an email and say, hey, you guys I would love to know more about this. I would love to know more about that. That would really help us as well, just to kind of connect with our community a bit more. But big one is subscribing, sharing with some friends, and some family. That would mean a lot to us. Leaving a review. Like I said, we're a little late to the party. So the quicker we can get those reviews up, I feel, the more Spotify and all these podcast people will let us do what we're doing. I don't know, or we don't need anybody and we just show up every week and talk.
Yeah, dance is so cool, and I feel like the general public don't know enough about it. We're getting there. Yeah. So dance to the world.
Hey, hashtag, throw that in there. Dan will do that. Dan will help us out with that type of stuff. So, yes, if you guys, was there anything else or should I wrap it up with this thing? All right. So if you can, let's see if I can do this. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell ring to turn on notifications, leave us a review, a comment, and share this with a friend. We're going to get better at that, but that would mean the world to us here at the Studio North podcast. Once again, we are your hosts, Scott and Carmen Forsyth. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next episode next week. And
thank you.
Peace.